In this video, we're going to talk about this check engine code that indicates the car can sense that the water pump is running dry. Some people have asked me, what does that mean? Is your water pump going bad? Does it need to be replaced? And it's actually not related to the water pump at all. We have two completely separate cooling systems. This large tank goes to your engine and your turbo. The small tank goes to your intercooler and your front heat exchanger. The small tank does not have a level sensor. That's why in my last video I was explaining if you do see a refill coolant message on your iDrive, it's telling you that your large coolant tank is low. When the small coolant tank goes low, you actually run into a completely separate line of issues. You'll feel the car slow down, and you'll feel power be reduced. It might go into limp mode, and that's probably why you scan for codes to begin with. The reason why it does that is because when this cooling system is low, that means that your air-to-water intercooler isn't going to work properly. So you have an air-to-water intercooler inside of your intake manifold, and without coolant flowing through there to reduce the temperatures of the air coming out of your turbo, it's basically going to cause your IATs to spike way up, over 140, 150 Fahrenheit. And when the car senses that, it's going to reduce boost, it's going to reduce timing, and pull power out of the engine to try to protect it. So that's why you'll feel the car slow down significantly. As you're going through the gears, it'll suddenly feel like it's hitting a brick wall. It's because your IATs are spiking through the roof. And you can see that in your logs. You'll see the IATs ramp way up, kind of out of control, until the point where your boost and timing and everything drops down. Now, when this system is low, there are a couple areas where it's very common to begin losing coolant. The most common one by far is your main front heat exchanger behind these grills. So that's linked to your intercooler circuit. So if a rock hits it and damages the heat exchanger, it's going to lose coolant. BMW actually released an updated Shroud that allows you to put a rock guard in front of the heat exchanger to protect it from rocks. And I'll put the part number for that in the description in case you want to retrofit it. But that's a very common issue just because our heat exchangers are made of Swiss cheese, and any little bit of debris seems to puncture it and cause it to leak. It can also potentially leak internally in the intercooler, and this will be pretty obvious if it does happen because you'll begin seeing smoke and steam coming out of the exhaust, and your exhaust will smell like coolant. So a lot of people are worried that it's like burning up internally and going into the engine, and if you don't see any signs of that, I wouldn't worry too much because it'll definitely be obvious if it does happen. So now that you've checked for signs of leaks, you don't see anything, go ahead and take off your cap and look inside. Make sure that your coolant is above the minimum line and below the max line. When you check, it's not going to be, so go ahead and top it off. And then we're going to do our pressure test. So this tester is similar to the one that they use at the BMW dealership. A lot of people were saying they thought it was like this really complex system that they plugged your car into, but nope, it's just this hand pump. So you're going to come back here, put your adapter on, plug in your pump, and pump it up to the required pressure and make sure that it holds it. So if that pressure starts dropping, again, look around at your most common suspects to see if you see any signs of leaks, if you see any coolant coming out, or listen for hissing to see if you can hear air coming out. If that test passes and you don't hear or see any leaks pop up after you pressurize the system, then again, it's very highly likely that it's your cap itself. So this is pretty cheap to replace and obviously easy to replace, but if it doesn't have a good seal, coolant can evaporate past the cap and cause your coolant loss. So diagnosing it is just like your other cooling system. The main thing is that it has its own symptoms and its own kind of codes that it throws inside of the car, but it's really the same thing. It's just another potential cooling system issue that you need to monitor with your B58. So hopefully this video helps and answers your questions, especially people that were asking why I didn't touch on the intercooler system in my last video, just because, again, it doesn't have a level sensor, so it throws its own code, and it has its own symptoms that are separate from what you would face when the large coolant tank is low. So thanks for watching. If you have any other questions or comments, leave them down below.